These attacks are dangerous, they're reckless, and they must stop. And so we're going to work together to ensure and reassure global shipping and mariners that they can safely transit the Red Sea region.
Maersk, of course, big in the container ship arena, and BP Oil are rerouting and going over the entire African continent. Now, when you're shipping goods, I understand that adds about $1 million in related costs for every tanker that has to do that. And they're not changing their plans for the time being, task force or no. Does that trouble you?
Well, you're making my point exactly in the fact that, again, these attacks by the Houthis, they think they're attacking one country. In fact, they're attacking the entire international community.
All right, the Pentagon spokesman General Ryder laying it all out that it's not easy for a lot of these ships and container companies and energy companies that are now deflecting their tankers and ships, we're told dozens of them, to take the circuitous route to avoid the Red Sea. But it is what it is. There's talk of a task force, as the general pointed out, to sort of ease that tension, but not one of those who quit the area coming back to the area. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg back with us, the U.S. Army, the former National Security Advisor to Vice President Pence, served this country incredibly notably and honorably. General, what's interesting here is the premise of the task force is to make sure those who navigate those seas feel safe. Now, more than a dozen have already said we don't, and talk of the task force has not made the sense that it's any safer. What do you think of that?
Yeah, first of all, Neil, thanks for having me, and second, Merry Christmas to you this year.
You as well.
Look, what you're looking at is really an illusion of progress, and I know what the press secretary for the Pentagon has said, and I know what Lloyd Austin has said, and he put together an operation called Prosperity Guardian to protect those assets going into the Red Sea, crossing into the Suez Canal. And what's happening, and there's a saying out there that, you know, people vote with their feet. Well, those shipping companies are voting with their fleets, and they're basically putting them around the Cape of Good Hope, around Africa, because they don't believe that the United States or any allied force together today will protect them. Neil, we've had a task force in place since 2022. It's called Task Force 153. It's based in Bahrain, specifically set up to protect Red Sea assets and shipping. And there is freedom of navigation. It's illegal to interrupt that. The Houthis don't care. They're shooting at it, and they're guarded and protected by the Republican guards, by the Quds Force of Iran. They've actually got a spy ship out there that actually monitors that on events going forward. And here's about people voting with their fleets. You look at the Italians. They said, we're not going to join the task force. The Spanish are not going to join the task force. The French are not going to join the task force. So there's an endemic issue here within the administration that there's a lack of confidence that they're really going to get anything done. So everybody's saying, look, we're just not going to go through the Red Sea. What does that mean? Well, you mentioned it earlier. It's about 12% of commerce. It's going to add about 21 days to it. A lot of money, billions of dollars added to it. And they're allowed to, by the way, shipping lines are allowed to do it through force majeure. They can raise their costs unilaterally simply because there's a threat to shipping. So I don't have a lot of confidence in the administration. I know they're talking about it. They've had a chance to fix it, and they haven't. And then they put together a task force that nobody's going to follow. And the Houthis know that. And the Houthis have been very, very clear. They're going to keep attacking shipping. Here's the second part, which is important. You can protect the ships all you want in the Red Sea. The attack forces from the Houthis are coming from the land. You're going to have to make the decision, do you want to go against the targets on the land where those missiles are coming from? So it's a hard decision to make. I just think the administration's honestly into risk avoidance. They don't want escalation, and I think the shipping lines see that, and they're basically saying, thanks, we're going to go our own way.
You know, John, you mentioned they're coming from the land, these Houthi rebel attacks and the missiles, the drones, et cetera. They're coming from Yemen for the most part. So attack Yemen. Why not just do that? Is that a fear of escalation? I can almost see when it comes to, well, we don't want to attack some hot spots in Iran because that's World War III. I don't even know from other generals with whom I've chatted, General, whether they agree with that. But we do know in this case these Houthi attacks largely are coming from Yemen. So why not open that up as an area to respond? Because it seems that these Houthi rebels are very confident we won't do that.
Yeah, they're positive we're not going to do it. Look, we're defensively protecting those fleets that are trying to go through the Red Sea. You need to take offensive type of action to eliminate the threat. And until you take out those targets that are creating the threat from the Houthis and Yemen, Yemen, nothing's going to happen. So, yeah, you've got to do that. I don't think, very honestly, Neil, it is very escalatory to do that. People will say, well, we've been expecting this for the last 2 years, and you haven't done it. And they need to do it. I don't think anything's going to come out of it. I don't think there's a lot of risk to it. I think there's really not much escalation. And the combat power and the capacity we have in that region is enormous. When you look at the carrier battle group, the forward battle group that's there, and the missile cruisers that we have, you know, when you look at just Tomahawk land attack missiles and the basic load of the fleet right now, it's over 600. That means you can use at least 600 missiles if you wanted to. If they don't make that point, Neil, the Houthis are going to just brush it off. But more importantly, the world is going to say, it's another example of the United States and the alliance talking but not taking any action. And that's the reason I said earlier, so the shipping companies of the world are saying, we just don't trust you. Thanks very much. We're going to go our own way. And that's a real hit on our credibility and the alliance's credibility as well.
And they still threaten away. So to your point, General, that does not change. General, I always learn a lot. Thank you very much for taking the time. Hope you do have a Merry Christmas and a safe one for you and your family. Thank you again, sir.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.